Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is Catherine Hecht. I'm the Executive Director of the Alexander Valley Film Society. Calling in or dialing in today from my home office in Cloverdale. We are still largely sheltering in place, but we have such a special show for you today, kind of a confluence of comedy, of errors, and quick thinking on a local educator's part. We have a special guest with us today, Evan Hayes, Oscar-winning producer of Free Solo, which was our opening night film at the 2018 Alexander Valley Film Festival. Plus, we also have three very special young people who just graduated from Cloverdale High School. And we thought, why not? Let's just put them all together and see what happens. We had a terrific drive-in last night, the first of the season at the Cloverdale Citrus Fair. Welcomed about 300 people to see Raiders of the Lost Ark, and not a peep. It went without a hitch, and everybody got to snuggle up and watch a great show after enjoying a moment of silence just to recognize everything that we're all going through right now and our broader community's struggles and fights for justice. So without further ado, I'm going to bring our special guests in. We're going to talk turkey for 25, 30 minutes. Please let us know you're here in the comments, and we'll get your names up on the screen as often as we can, and as many questions as they come in. So without further ado, let's welcome our guests. We've got Finn Addison, Miguel Gonzalez, Morgan Seals, and the Hayes. Welcome, everybody.
Hello. Good to be here.
Oh, man. How's everybody doing?
Great.
Pretty good.
Yeah, doing good.
Yeah, Miguel, you're okay?
Yeah. What a bit of a car set there.
Are you sitting on your porch?
Yeah, unfortunately the lighting inside isn't great, so I thought this might be better. Hopefully there's not going to be a ton of car noises.
That's okay, even if there are. It's just good to see your face. Congratulations to you and Finn and Morgan on graduating this week.
Yeah, congrats, guys.
Thank you.
That's so awesome. And then how about this guy down here, Mr. Evan Hayes? Congrats on that Oscar, sir.
Yeah, it's like a distant memory now.
A lifetime ago.
Yeah, it feels like a long time ago. Still on the shelf at home.
Which home? The one where you're going, or where you're?
No, it's here in LA. Yeah, but it's funny you mentioned screening Raiders outdoors in the drive-in. So we have a outdoor screen here and a projector. So we my kids sat in the pool and we projected Raiders like 2 Saturdays ago. It was awesome.
That is awesome.
Really fun outdoor screening film.
Yeah, it's kind of a perfect movie, and a really good for us. You know, it's just the perfect way to get everybody together for the first time, because up here that was probably the first big event that had happened in Sonoma County so far. You know, notwithstanding the graduation ceremonies that were kind of deconstructed and done a little differently. So Morgan, where did you do part of the graduation celebration?
For like what?
Yeah, were you like didn't Cloverdale do a drive-through graduation?
Yeah.
And what was that like for you?
I mean, it was nice because I got to be in the car with my brother and my parents, so they got to be like front row seats, but it was just nice and relaxed with everyone. And
when you were
I was going to ask, how did you actually receive your diploma? Like what, through the car window or?
No, so the actual graduates could get out of the car and like walk across a little stage, all of course wearing masks, and just receive it from our principal.
Got it. Okay. So strange.
So strange. But Morgan, did you get the actual diploma, or do they send it later?
No, I got the actual diploma.
Oh, nice.
No parties?
Not really.
That's a good thing, I guess.
Miguel, were you with your family for graduation?
Yeah, we kind of did the same thing. Just we were in the car going through, and we were able to walk up on the little stage they had set up and receive our diploma. It was pretty nice.
Oh, good. Did you feel like as you were nearing the end of school, I mean, let's just assume that it was bizarre. And I will also presume that it might have been disappointing. Were there, Miguel, was there something in there for you that was in particular that you reflected on, maybe surprising about this time?
Well, I mean, a whole lot of things are going on right now. So I thought it was just in general pretty nice that they were able to put together something. I'm assuming pretty fast too, because it was not soon after some of the kind of restrictions were lifted that they sent out an email to us about what was going to happen. So I thought that was really nice. What was kind of funny was that originally I thought that because the restrictions were pretty heavy to make sure everyone was safe, I thought that well, at least me and my friends were joking that we would probably receive an email of a PDF of our diploma and have to print it out ourselves.
Would that have counted, do you think?
I don't know, but it would have been pretty funny.
I mean, why not, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Finn, what about you? So you were abroad for a year, come home for your senior year, and then it gets, this weird stop. How have things been for you?
They've been okay. And I talked about some of that stuff with some of my teachers and other students, and I came back with all these expectations of a fantastic senior year, and there's all these experiences that you look forward to senior year, and I was super excited for them, and they kind of all got wiped away. But I guess it did have a bit of there was a bit of a happy ending at the end, because originally we had thought, well, there won't be any graduation. It'll be a Zoom graduation, and that'll be that. And I mean, once restrictions were kind of lifted and we actually got to be given our diploma in person, that made it a lot better, I think. And a lot of people were really thankful for that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Where were you abroad?
I was in Norway, a little town called Eidsvoll.
Oh, wow. What prompted that?
I have always loved traveling, and
They like Norway too.
Sounds like it. I've always loved traveling, and I've been to Norway a couple of times before that, and I loved the people, I loved the culture, I loved the food. And I just really wanted to go, and I went, and I had a fantastic host family, and I had one of the best adventures of my entire life. So I'm so glad I went. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And so Finn, I know that your trip back this summer was postponed. I'm hoping it was postponed and not canceled.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have a set date to do it later, but Norway has closed its borders to a lot of countries. So.
Yeah. Evan, do you remember your high school graduation, or was that too long ago?
Oh man, I remember it very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I don't want to describe it because it was it was very different from what you guys went through. It was incredibly fun and wild. We had a good time.
Yeah, these guys, you all are gonna. It is what it is. That doesn't mean we have to like it, and it doesn't mean that we approve, but it is what it is. And
yeah, I feel I have 3 kids, and I feel good. None of them are in big kind of transition periods right now. I think that's hard when you're kind of going from, even if you're going from a small elementary school to a middle school, or from high school to college, or graduating from college and trying to get a job. All difficult things. So anyway.
Yeah. But Evan, you were just saying when we did our little test broadcast a second ago, you were just saying, so you went to college you started in environmental science, right?
Yeah.
And then moved over to film as a film major.
Yeah.
So you graduated as a film major.
Yeah.
But then so much of your work today has this environmental focus.
Yeah, I think part of that's good. So I did something called NOLS. Have you guys ever heard of NOLS?
I haven't.
National Outdoor Leadership School.
Oh, cool.
Check it out. Have you heard of Outward Bound?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's similar to Outward Bound. So anyways, I went to Alaska for a month between junior and senior year of high school. And so when I got to college, I just spent this long period of time, this month in Alaska in the wilderness. So yeah, I became an environmental science major and then switched to film, worked on a lot of movies for a long time. And then, part of getting older is you can make some different choices about what you decide to spend your time on. And so for me, a lot of the things, probably half or more of the projects I'm working on, and almost all the projects I'm working on now, except for two, that are getting made, have this connection back to the environment.
Oh, wow.
Or some kind of, kind of life science, one project has a kind of tangential connection, but yeah, it's been fun. So we're making one of the most obvious one is doing a film about someone named Jacques Cousteau. I'm actually curious. So you guys are 17 or 18?
18.
17.
Okay. So do you guys know who Jacques Cousteau is?
I don't think so.
I can't say I do.
So it's really interesting because I'm 40, and if you're like over 35, everyone knows who he is. If you're 30 to 35, you might be like, oh, I kind of know who this is. And then if you're under 30, you probably have never heard of him. So we're working to change that. So he was the first, he invented scuba. So he invented scuba diving. He was also one of the first people to film underwater. And he's the first person to ever win Academy Award for documentary, I believe.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
It may not be entirely. I think that's true. We might have to fact check this. So I don't want this to be fake news. So anyway, he was someone who, was this inventor. He was also a spy in World War II. He was a scientist. He was an explorer. And so he started filming underwater through scuba, started making films, became a kind of explorer, and through exploring the oceans over a period of 20, 30 years, he then became an environmentalist because he saw what was happening.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really, and then he made a television series called The Undersea World of Jacques Cousteau, which was a massive success for National Geographic and kind of thrust him into the spotlight. And he became a bit of a diplomat. And so the documentaries that we're making is for National Geographic. It's an all archival film, a lot of footage of his that you haven't seen before. But it's pretty powerful. I mean, he died in 1997. And when you listen to his speeches from the 1970s talking about the environment, for example, he spoke at the UN, I think in 1977, 1978 maybe, and you could teleport that speech to today.
Wow.
You wouldn't have to change a word. It's just even scarier and more powerful now. So anyway.
Yeah, that's, what's interesting about that, and as specifically as it relates to this crazy moment. And Morgan, you're dropping in and out there, darling, but I'm going to keep adding you here until it sticks. But what's so interesting about that, it's all about the journey, and it's like how the journey changed him and opened his eyes, and what an appropriate conversation for right now. Miguel, let's talk about that for a second. So you were with us. You came to the festival last year when we had Jennifer Seibel Newsom there with her film Great American Lie. And And so here we are now, almost a year later, and the main thrust of that film was about income inequality, and now we have the veil has lifted, so to speak, in the last couple of weeks for this country. What are you thinking about all this?
Well, I mean, it was definitely there before, and I think kind of when I went to go see Great American Lie, like I had already known about some of the issues, but kind of just seeing it put to film and in the way that her and her filmmakers were able to just like put it together, and like you could really see like just the damage that was being caused, and especially I think now there's definitely a lot of controversy surrounding the protesters and the protest itself, but I think it's really a necessary thing that we need to do. I mean, hopefully everyone's staying safe with their masks on and everything, but I think that it really does help to kind of show people in authority just how much these things mean to us. And I mean, like things like the I believe it was Colorado that has at least passed or is in their legislature. They're doing the Police Accountability Act, which kind of shows that like these protests are working. Hopefully, more states and like cities will be able to pass these kind of laws to ensure that these kind of things are at least things that happen to people like George Floyd don't happen anymore, or at least that the people that are responsible are held accountable.
Yeah, here. Hey, Finn, what? Yeah, totally. What conversations are you all having in your family about what's going on right now?
It's obviously such a sensitive subject to so many people, and there are always going to be controversies between it, and we have people in my family that come from different political backgrounds and see the problems from a different viewpoint. And I think it's also hard. People are trying to find ways to be part of these protests and be a part of the movement. And so me and my family have discussed about the tensions that have been building up for years and how we can be a person that stands in the middle ground and be what we call a bridge between those who are on one side of this argument and ones that are completely on the other side, and how we can create conversation to these issues and these protests and I guess interpret them and translate them into ways that everybody can understand and everybody can be a part of and see the meaningful impact of them.
That's cool. It's pretty complicated, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Morgan, before I'm going to ask you pretty much the same question, but Evan, you worked on. Did you produce "I Am Malala" or "My Name Is Malala"?
I wasn't a producer on it, but I was the president of the company that made it.
Oh, wow.
So I worked. I actually joined the company kind of halfway through the project, but I worked on it towards the end. And it's obviously a film that listen. I think a lot of these conversations are about just kind of fundamental behavior and how we treat one another across the board. And I don't think Malala is any different. In her case, she was very much about equality, gender equality, and female education around the world, as you know. But ultimately, that idea of equality, translates to how we behave. And how we treat one another and respect, and I think that's a really important universal idea that hopefully most people can get behind.
One would hope.
Yeah.
One would hope.
Yeah, I mean, I'm making a film about those ideas right now.
Can you tell us about it or no?
Yeah. Do you guys know who Laura Dern is?
Yeah, I do.
See, this is the test. Like, I like speaking with young people because this is when I'm like, how old? I feel young, but when I say something like Laura Dern and I don't get a reaction,
Oh, wait.
Have
Come on,
you
you guys.
have you ever heard of her? Do you know who she is?
What is the series she just did? The
Big Little Lies.
Big Little Lies. Did you guys not watch that?
I haven't watched it, but I know the series that you are talking
Morgan's cringing. Morgan's like, yeah. So Laura Dern's been around for a really long time. She just won an Oscar this year for Marriage Story.
Oh yeah.
But she also was on Big Little Lies, and she was also married to Ben Harper for a long time. Do you know who Ben Harper is, the musician?
It sounds familiar.
Oh my God.
What? Here we go. This is education, Evan.
Anyway, all right, here's another question. Do you know who Pete Souza is? Have you ever heard the name Pete Souza? Yeah, someone just said this is a good reminder. She's in Jurassic Park, but the original one. Anyway,
I watched the movie.
So she has long blonde hair, and she's the scientist. She's like the female scientist in the first Jurassic Park, and she's doing another Jurassic Park, which they were filming, but it got put on hiatus because of COVID. Anyway, I'm producing a movie with her that primarily features a guy named Pete Souza. Have you guys ever heard that name, Pete Souza?
I want to say I have.
Okay, I'm gonna stop with the Q&A about names in one second. That was my last one. So Pete has 2.2 million Instagram followers because he was President Obama's chief official White House photographer, and for all 8 years. He's also published a book called Obama: An Intimate Portrait, which is one of the best-selling photography books of all time. And most people don't, I'll start with, he started posting when he left the White House. He started posting this wasn't his intention. He intended to kind of stop with the White House and politics, focus on, he was a photojournalist. He worked for newspapers, photographed in Afghanistan, in the Middle East, Bosnia, etc. But he saw kind of some behavior coming out of the White House with the new administration that he felt was kind of beneath the office. He has waded into the politics of it, but for a lot of it for him was just how you're behaving, your treatment of others as the person that holds that office. And what's really interesting about Pete is a lot of people like to, and Finn, I think you spoke really articulately about that kind of balance and the idea that that can be really challenging nowadays. People want to put you on one side or the other. And don't get me wrong, Pete is very firmly on the left. But when people dismiss him and his point of view, what they don't realize is that he was President Reagan's chief photographer. Actually, not. He was one of President Reagan's official White House photographers. And he worked for Reagan for 5 years. And that's precisely why he feels the way he feels. Mm-hmm. Because no matter whether you're a representative of a Republican Party who leans conservative, or you're someone who's a representative of the Democratic Party who leans left, right? That should not change the way that you treat other people, right? As a kind of in your human interaction, and we can have I'm happy to have a debate about it if we disagree. But the point, so I decided, Pete left the White House, started posting. I started following him. And one of the nice things of having made a couple movies that people like is I can kind of meet anybody for the most, you can kind of meet most people. So I sent Pete a note saying, with a friend of mine, actually, Laura Dern's producing partner, sat down with him and went to see him talk. And his talk, I was crying, I was laughing, because it's this talk about kind of the humanity necessary or desired in a leader. And that idea of empathy broadly. And he talks a lot about his relationship with Reagan and how Reagan treated other people, Reagan's relationship with his wife, with Nancy, and also Obama. So it's a film that tells you a little bit of the biography of this guy, Pete Souza, takes you into what does the White House photographer mean, all of the behind the scenes photos, you know, like for me, what are those first 100 photographs Pete took, like the moment Obama walked into the Oval Office the first time? Like, what does that feel like? What does that look like? What is, you know, and so Pete has all these photos of Michelle and Barack testing out the desk chair, right? and moving a couch, you know, and it's like that type of thing humanizes the presidency in a way that reminds you that he works for us, and reminds you that, like, yeah, this isn't someone who stands on a pulpit. This is someone who actually is meant to react to the things that we're feeling as Americans, whether you're, you know, on the left or the right. And we're the movie we're making tells that kind of story of Pete starting to find a voice in spite of the fact he was someone kind of meant to be invisible, right? His entire job in the White House was behind the scenes. No one should ever look your way. No one should ever think about, you know, you should never have a point of view. That's not why you're there. You're not participating in meetings. You're capturing these images for history. So the fact that Pete became this kind of activist in his post White House, you know, career over the last 3 years is just a really kind of fascinating organic character arc for me as a storyteller. We're making a film about that for Focus and Universal Pictures right now.
Oh, that's great, Evan. I didn't realize that it was with them. That's amazing.
Yeah, it'll come out in September.
That's awesome. Good. I cannot wait to see it.
Yeah, it's fun. So, but it deals, you know, it you know, what's interesting is we're still cutting the film right now. And so, you know, we anticipated, or we have been anticipating and been actively, you know, working on integrating this quarantine COVID situation into the film. And, you know, we thought you know, we didn't anticipate what happened with the George Floyd situation. And so now we're kind of integrating that into the film too, because I think a lot of it has to do with leadership and empathy and kind of respect for others.
Evan, we have a question here. What is the name of the film?
That's a very good question. There's not a title right now. It's currently so I'll give you a little inside baseball. Like Pete published a book called Shade, A Tale of Two Presidents, and it was essentially some current president tweets and whatnot, and then kind of Pete's reaction to it. And some of it's very funny, some of it's very heartfelt, some of it's sad. That's not the point. Like, so for a decent amount of time, we considered calling the movie Shade, because it's based on a book. It's kind of poppy, but that's not the story we want to tell. That's not the theme we want to convey. We're not telling a story about one versus the other.
Right.
That's not what we're trying to do. So we don't know. We're not sure yet. I'm open to suggestions.
Yeah, write them in, folks. That's amazing. What a great story for this time. Wow.
Yeah, it's what's especially fun is we're right now in the current cut of the film, which is running about 100 minutes, which is too long, but we have over 400 of his photos. He took 1.9 million photos during the Obama administration, and then we obviously have the Reagan photos as well. And so, just seeing those photos and hearing what was happening in that moment. How was everyone feeling? What was the mood of the room? Really getting inside that administration, inside the Reagan administration, This is way before your time, and it was pretty much before my time too. But things like the Iran-Contra affair and what happened in Beirut with our troops and the terrorist attack, and so it's that part of the movie is something that I personally find fascinating. How was the attitude as Obama got on Marine One after Trump was inaugurated?
Right. Yeah.
What was that first day in the Oval Office like? The big this huge snowstorm in DC called Snowmageddon, and President Obama went out with Sasha and Malia and played in the snow for 3 hours. And just that story of that alone, and you see Sasha about to throw a snowball in the president's face, and then you show the snowball in his face.
Yeah.
Anyways, hopefully it's a movie that makes you feel really positive, makes you feel like your voice can be heard, makes you feel like makes you believe that goodness can kind of triumph no matter what.
Yeah, I'm really struck by that. And I was going to ask Morgan. Morgan, your image is frozen, but I was going to ask you, when you and your family are having conversations about this, and now you're graduated from high school, do you feel compelled to be involved more in political action, to talk about it more? What is that like for you?
Yeah, like personally, I really like talking to my parents about these things because it is I think just generationally, it's very different. So, I mean, we don't agree on a lot of things, but I think having the conversation is really important. And I do want to be more involved than like my siblings were or my siblings think they should be.
And can you tell us again, you told us, but I'd like for everybody to know, where are you going to school in the fall?
I'm going to UC San Diego.
And what are you going to be studying?
Human biology.
Human biology. Wow. Yep. That's applicable. Finn, where are you headed off to?
I'll be going to Montana State.
And studying what?
Conservation biology.
Interesting. And then you'll become a filmmaker and we'll be interviewing you in 15 years.
Maybe.
And Miguel?
I'll be going to UC Berkeley.
And what are you studying?
Electrical engineering and computer science.
That's great.
So do you know? Have you guys seen or heard of the movie Free Solo?
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Morgan. No, Morgan. Before we end this call, there's going to be something I said. Have you ever heard of Billie Eilish? If you say no, then maybe she can't hear me.
I think Morgan's in a little bit of a delay. Morgan, you've heard of Billie Eilish.
Anyway, yeah. So sorry. What were we? I got distracted in my last person. So Free Solo was a movie that I made about a climber named Alex Honnold, who climbed El Capitan in Yosemite without ropes. But Miguel, he went to Berkeley on scholarship for engineering, and actually, when his father passed away, he dropped out, and that set his career as a rock climber kind of on a turbocharge.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
How far did he get into Berkeley? Do you know?
I think it was very early on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Miguel, are you going to move down there?
Yeah, hopefully in the fall, but still don't know quite what's going to happen.
Well, we've lost Morgan again. I can't thank you all enough for just hopping on and just chatting a little bit. I think this is this kind of multi-generational. There are only 2 generations here, but still, I think it's so telling for us to know what you do and are what you are and are not aware of. And same, there's so much for us to learn from you right now. Finn, if there was something you could tell the older people in your life right now, with reservation, perhaps since you're on live internet TV, what is something you'd want us to know or consider?
I guess I would say that there's a lot of people that want their voices to be heard, and a lot of people that don't feel their voices are being heard right now, and that they do have a right to be angry, and that there are people that definitely need a voice in this world that haven't had a voice for a long time.
Oh my God, from the mouth of babes. Well, my job is done. And what about you? Is there something that you wish people my age, so I'm 47, people my age, older, is there something you wish we knew or that we were thinking about?
Not for me.
Yes, Morgan, sorry. Yes, and I'm sorry, I think you're on a little bit of a delay.
Messed up.
Morgan's having bandwidth issues.
Okay, we're going to move on, but Miguel, what about you? What do you think is something we should be thinking about?
Well, I just say that something kind of in general is that like something I like really picked up from like reading a book. I don't know if you've read or heard about it before, but it's called Johnny Got His Gun. And so it's a pretty sad story about like a World War I veteran who ends up being a quadruple amputee and becomes blind and deaf. And so it is a pretty sad story, but like overall, like the message is kind of like that despite like kind of his feelings and like his like struggle to desperately be heard, like the one, like when he finally gets his chance and someone does hear him, he's just ignored because they don't like what he has to hear. And so I think kind of building off of Finn's point, like I think that we have definitely problems with that in our society, whether it's, you know, people of different ethnicities, of different wealth, just not being heard because some people just don't want to hear it. And I think, I mean, I certainly have my own biases, and sometimes I don't want to hear what certain other people have to say, but I think it's important that we do listen, whether we like it or not, just to kind of make sure that we're listening to their point as well. Because what I find really is that, like, for the most part, we all, like, whether we're US citizens or we're Russians or we're Chinese or like any of these different people or any on other side of the political spectrum, all we really want is like a good life for ourselves, for our family, our friends. And there are definitely different ways that people see to achieving them. But I think that that's something we can all really like unite on and make sure that like we're listening to what other people have to say, even if we don't always like it.
Wow. Well, Evan, I don't know what else we need to do here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would just say, totally agree with you guys. I love hearing it from the younger generation. To me, there's right and there's wrong, and I think whether it comes to the environment or how we treat one another or a number of education. I think we actually agree on more things than we disagree on. When you look at them through the lens of right and wrong, and I think the most liked tweet in history was Obama quoting Nelson Mandela, and I think he was saying, I think he said, no one's born hating, another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. And I think, and it came with a photograph that Pete Souza had taken of Obama at a nursery school with three different ethnicity, young three different, toddlers of different ethnicities. And, to me that's something that, I have three kids. It's something, I try to teach them, and I think it's pretty relatable and universal. And if we just remember that and, live by that, I think we'll probably end up in much better shape.
Yeah, no doubt. Tolerance, patience, and tolerance. Could use a big dose of that for all of us. Well, gents and Morgan, thank you so much for joining us. I know I just got a text. She's just having connectivity issues, but so proud of the three. I'm so proud of the four of you. I mean, Evan, it was such a joy to be just a small part of that journey for you, and to just. Honestly, we had our Oscar celebration. That's where we do our big fundraiser, and the
I should have brought it upstairs. I wasn't thinking about it.
Oh my God! They started with best documentary that year.
It was the second one.
Yeah.
Thank God. Thank God you didn't have to sit through the whole thing waiting.
But I can only tell you, I could not speak after that moment. I just screamed myself hoarse. It was so exciting. We just believed in that film and you and the team so much. It was so exciting.
Yeah. It was fun.
So congrats on that. And to you guys for, getting through high school, the next step. I mean, I don't mean to be too, here we go, Miguel, we'll put you back there. I don't mean to be too contrite, but it can only get better. It can only get better. And you're showing such empathy and compassion, and good luck. Good luck with your next steps. We expect.
Yeah, you guys are really impressive. It was great to connect with you, and I'm really, you guys are really articulate and thoughtful in the way you're thinking about things, and that's what we need. So good for you.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to sign off with you guys, and thank you so much for joining us today. For the rest of you, thank you for tuning in today. Just what a delightful confluence of things to make this get together happen, and sending all of you safety, peace, well wishes, a big dose of tolerance and compassion per our impromptu panelists today. And we'll look forward to seeing you at the movies. Up next, we have Elizabeth Rodriguez joining us next week on Sunday at 2 p.m. So everybody take a moment to check out 11:55. I believe it's a film from 2016. And Elizabeth has a starring role in that. So we'll be talking to her about that and her career. And until then, take care of one another, and we'll see you at the movies.